In 1758, when Abercrombie was here on his disastrous attempt to take Fort Karig, he had built here a stockaded fort. When he lost the battle, anything that he had built in the Fort George area, or excuse me, in the Lake George Battlefield Park area, he took back down. He took down the stockaded fort that was here at the same time as he took everything else out. This is the time when they sunk the boats in the lake, the bateau in the lake, as well as buried cannons. So they just kind of closed the place up for the winter. When Geoffrey Amherst came in 1759, he wanted again to have the fortifications rebuilt in the park. He did have this stockaded fort rebuilt at that time, and it was to serve as a place for soldiers and other people to stay while they constructed Fort George. I'm standing on the walls of one of the barracks in the stockaded fort, and the other is over to my right. They're pretty long barracks. They're about 100 feet long, and the foundations are pretty evident today. In the year 2000, Dr. David Starbuck led an extensive excavation of this site. Not all of it, but quite a bit of it. And that's how we were able to ascertain that the barracks that I'm standing on were the soldiers' barracks, and the barracks over to my right were the officers' barracks, because the officers had plastered walls, which is quite interesting. Now, the other thing that we found here was numerous artifacts. It was a wonderful treasure trove of artifacts, many of which are going to be on display at the Visitors Interpretive Center for the park. The other thing that was very interesting is a year later than that, they began excavating the west end of the officers' barracks and found another room. And the interesting thing about that room is it actually had a brick floor. And we'd not seen any buildings here with a brick floor in the past. I'm standing on one of the exterior walls of the fort, of the stockaded fort, and that's one of the things that confused us. We tried to find post holes because you think a stockaded fort has vertical logs, but it didn't. This fort, in fact, we have a picture of it to prove what I'm about to say, had a stone foundation, and the logs and lumber in it were actually horizontal. A few years ago, we were actually able to identify that. After years of looking for the fort, we were able to find out that a piece of limestone that we kept walking over, thinking it was just an outcropping of limestone, was actually one of the walls of the fort.